Keeps it real.
Yep.
Welcome back to Legends in My Own Mind. I'm sitting here once again with the legend, the greatest, biggest man in Central Illinois wrestling history.
That's too much, dude. Calm down. That's not true.
Come on, man. You're the one. I gotta build you up for the crowd.
Well,
they gotta get excited. They gotta get excited. They gotta get juiced for the one, the only, Benz.
I'm juiced to be here, but that was an oversell.
Nah.
Yeah, it wasn't. The greatest, huh? I enjoy being the big man.
Come on, man. This is your time to shine, man.
Yeah.
Let me
I'm not. You know damn well I'm not one of those people that's gonna come out and brag about myself or anything. Did I have a great run? Yeah, I had a great run.
That's why I gotta come brag for you.
I appreciate it.
Just get out of my way. I'll get you over, kid.
All right. You've done it the whole time, so yeah, we're good.
Benz, welcome back.
Thanks, man.
Last week we talked about your whole history, covered it beginning to end.
Yeah.
This week I want to dig into it a little bit and a little bit about how you became the wrestler that you have been, that you are.
Yeah, how I became Benz.
Right. So
I just put a Z on my name. Nailed it.
Very creative.
I don't even know how that happened, to be honest with you. Like it just kind of like, oh, we'll throw a Z on it and see what happens. And
wasn't that
20 years later?
You were the Hot Boys. You were Scotty Cash. And,
yeah.
And the Hot Boys started at New Midwest or MWA. Same thing.
Yeah.
When it wasn't real serious.
Right.
And it was kind of, you guys were doing we were doing the practice. You guys were doing the practice shows, and I started later. But so there wasn't a whole ton of like gimmick and let's put thought into these characters.
We did.
But
we sang the Backstreet Boys, bro.
You did sing the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
No, but you were the Hot Boys, and you were just you're Scotty. I mean, Scott's real name was Scott.
Mm-hmm.
You just used Cash as the last name, and you were Benz.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You were Benz.
Yeah,
so
it was. Yeah, I guess destiny. That I figured if I added a Z, I could still spell it.
There you go.
Yeah, it worked out great.
Yeah. So when we talk about the development of you as a wrestler, you had a lot of, as we talked about last week, you had a lot of stops and starts. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I want to take us through. So first time, how far did you make it? Do you really feel like what did you learn the first time you were wrestling?
The first time
when you started.
Yeah,
when
when
you started
I started
in high school until you left for Florida, right?
Yep. Oh man, to be honest with you, looking back, I really didn't. I knew how to do moves.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you were doing matches and stuff.
I was doing matches.
I mean, what kind of stuff? I mean, you were just pick the moves in the matches. How are you putting matches together?
Trying to memorize everything.
Yeah.
The same. Yeah. If this, wait 10 seconds. This. Yeah. How many cool moves can I throw in here in any particular order?
Right.
And I didn't understand wrestling at all the first time.
Well, and at that time none of us did. Like we were all.
Some of you guys had a better grasp on it than others.
At
least you faked it.
Well, it was all. I think it was all. That was the thing. Like we all had different ideas, different aspects.
Again, that's what made that great.
Right.
Was the fact that you get different opinions from so many different people.
Yep. It was all working to come together.
Right. You were a trainer when you got there. I was a trainer when I got there. Luke was a trainer. Rob was a trainer. Justin was a trainer. Everybody that showed up was a trainer because we would all pass and share ideas.
Right.
So yeah, I mean that's. I think I took a lot from that, learning stuff, but at that point, my main focus was, all right, well, let's do some cool moves.
Yeah. Was there any method there? Like, did you try? I mean, was there any method to how you put the moves together, or was it just?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, you have an idea of how to put moves together based on watching it. Right. You know what I mean? For so long, but there was never a There was never like I didn't have a reason other than this will be cool.
Okay.
Yeah, there was never a definitive reason the first time I did it. Like that first time I was there, I was picking things up, but I wasn't learning.
Okay.
The backside of wrestling.
Yeah.
I was learning the athletic part of wrestling.
Right.
The falling, that stuff, but I wasn't actually learning and picking up the psychology of wrestling.
Okay.
And I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't pick that up for a long time.
Okay.
I always thought that, and I didn't know I wasn't picking it up.
Right. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know, and I didn't know any better that I didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, okay, well, I come back and this worked out and everybody liked it. Cool. Or if they didn't like it, I don't understand why.
Right.
So then again, we all didn't know better at that point, and that was, I think that evolution happened when I was gone.
Yeah.
That evolution of people caring about making it a product as a whole, not just the clubhouse, and that was the part that I missed and that I had to play catch up on.
Yeah.
And
so how'd you catch up on that? So you came back, you leave for 4 years, you come back,
and like I said, I jumped back into the fold and started training with the young class, Like I essentially Chris Jericho'd all over New Midwest and MWA. Like, hey, disappear for a while, come back. Now I'm one of the young cats over here. But learning with them, learning.
So, well, okay. Let me ask you, like, how did you know, or how did you see, like what was it you were noticing? What did it look like when you came back to realize, like, oh, this is something else now? How did that kind of come to you? How did you see it? I guess
very intimidating.
Okay.
It was actually really super intimidating walking back in there and not, walking back in there, being a part of the original group, walking back in there. It's like, yeah, I was accepted back immediately. Like, hey, you're welcome back. Come back. Yeah. And then the young cats are like, well, he's been here since day one. Well, I don't know as much as you guys do because you've been training for a while. You don't. I'm not going to tell you that.
Right.
but you know what I mean. Like there was like Eric Logan. I'm trying to think of who else came around at that point that was still there when I got there. The model Harold. Those guys, like, I come back and these guys I didn't know who they were when I left.
Right.
I come back and they're like, hey, nice to have you back. This is awesome. And they're great people. I'm not going to let them know that they know more than me, but they for sure did. And everybody did. Yeah. So at that point, I decided, all right, I'm going to go through the training with these guys. I've done this part of it before. Now, you guys have made it extremely a lot harder than we did in the clubhouse because you're actually trying to make it a business, and we're doing these drills that are awful. But I understand them, but they're terrible. I don't want to hey. I'd always want to raise my hand and go, hey, I was here day one. I don't really want to do this. But I bit my tongue, sat back, and I just decided, well, it's time to be a sponge and soak up as much as I can from everybody, just like the way we did, and take parts of everybody and see what works for me. And that, I mean, it worked a little bit. It was one of those things where I was just super intimidated when I got back. I mean, you guys were having shows of 400 people at the USA Center. It was awesome. It was fun to walk into it, and the fact that I thought that I would walk back in and be able to do it was an awesome feeling when I got there. But after the first day, and I realized I didn't belong. Yeah. Like I everything had passed me by, and that was a hard pill to swallow because but at the same point, I knew that if I wanted to do it, I'm going to have to suck it up and do it. And I mean, I guess that was a decision that I was like, well, I don't have to go back, but I kind of partially came back for this. Yeah. So let's see what I can do. Yeah. And it was a lot of. Did you
pick it up quick, or was it slow going? How'd it feel, I guess?
Well, I mean, the bumps and stuff.
Comes back.
It comes back, and the moves and the timing that comes back. The psychology part, I was always I was always on the short bus of that.
Yeah.
Like, it really took me a long time to grasp. Well, I don't even know that. I think I grasped psychology of it. Mm-hmm. Like, I understood when we were putting a match together where things would be and what should. And, that second time, not the first time. The second time, I understood where things should be, how things should be, what story I'm trying to tell. Like, I understood that, but I didn't know. I didn't know where I fit. Does that make sense? Like, I didn't know where. Like, I didn't have to be a cardboard copy of something. I didn't know. I knew this was a certain way. I knew the standard. Like, I'd figured out the standard match plan. You know what I mean? But I guess I never had enough confidence that time to make it my own, or feel like I was a part of it. I'd be put in a match with somebody, and it would be one of those things where I would sit back and let them decide because I didn't feel like my voice counted.
Right.
I mean, and at that point, it may have counted, and I may have had some good thoughts, but I didn't feel I had earned that yet.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
So, did you earn it? How'd you earn it?
I think it came that later run in New Midwest where once I had split away from the Hot Boys, and I had to I didn't have a mouthpiece to rely on because Scott was always my mouthpiece. I was never good at that part of it, and when damn well as anybody that when Scott's involved, there's no thinking, there's no planning, right? We're just gonna go out there. Like, you guys you can tell us 1,000 times, and I'm gonna listen to what you tell us. The stuff's gonna be the first second we get out there. Scott's gonna hit you in the mouth, and the whole plan changes, right?
Yeah.
So I just became accustomed to that, and then when I got put on my own, I was like, okay, it's time for me to start sitting back and giving some input into the matches and what I'm doing, and I found myself doing that during the matches, not like kind of letting the guys, but like I said in the first episode, finding somebody in the crowd and interacting with them.
Well, hold on, I want to go back.
Yeah.
So when did you? How did you get to where you were starting? So you talked about you started kind of taking a little charge in matches, right?
Yeah.
How did you get to that? Like, was there a moment where you were like, okay, it's my time, or was it kind of organic, where like a little bit this match, a little more the next match?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It
was a gradual thing, just progressively. Like, when I first came back in the first, I came back and I faced Mr. Elite and you guys at 4GQ. Like, I knew that there was a plan, and I knew what my spot was, and I could physically do that. But at that point, I wasn't thinking about the bigger picture. Why am I being used here? What is being needed? What is being needed of me? Now, it happened to work out with that was a cool spot and that part of it, but I didn't understand the whole part of it, and that just came gradually. I mean, and that was through the rise of Benz, after the Hot Boys were done, and me working matches with Ruffington and I can't even remember everybody there. I know there was. I mean, it was guys. the man, not the Man Scout, the Eagle Scout, James, and I mean, working matches with those guys at the beginning, knowing those guys had come in after my second time coming, like my second birth, and they had come in and trained, and then I knew, okay, well, I'm the veteran now. I need to help put these guys in a spot to succeed, and so they're going to look to me for input. So I have to start doing it, and that's kind of where it came from with like those guys where, I wasn't the rookie anymore or the second time rookie anymore. I needed to start, being Benz and start, hey, I've earned the right to have a say. Mm-hmm. Now, am I going to jump over somebody that's been here? No, I'm not going to overstep my bounds, but in this position, yes. And it just kind of organically grew and grew and grew to the point where I was comfortable going out there, and I knew who to say things to, who to give ideas to, and who had the ideas anyway. So let's roll with it. Yeah.
Okay. So that's so at that point. So now you're starting to get a little more confident.
Yeah.
You've broken off from Scotty. You're on your own. You're not in the tag team anymore.
Right.
You're starting to feel that kind of veteran pressure. How do you and you talked about last week how that was the time to start carving your own path.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So take us through that. How do you, how do you, like, when you think I need to carve my own path, what is that? How does that look in your head? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Carving my own path meant finding what made me different from everybody else. What made me not just another guy having a match? What could I bring to the spot that I'm in that will resonate with the people there and make me stand out from somebody else?
Yep.
And I, to be honest with you, to this day, I don't know what it was. I was just being me.
Yeah.
Like, it literally being me, and it caught on, and it was so easy. Like, and it sounds terrible, but it really was. I just went out there and said, okay, I'm just going to be me and have fun and do what I know how to do, and do it and be me just in the middle of a match. I don't have to think about being a wrestler. I don't have to think about this. Just be you. You are a wrestler. Do it and see what happens. And it just kind of morphed from there. It was go out. If kids were excited, hug them. If there was people excited, notice them. Let them know that you notice them.
Yeah.
Don't walk past people. Stand there, hug everybody, sign everything. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And it really just, once I allowed that part of it to happen, it was that part of being Benz the wrestler, the face, that was when we became. It wasn't Benz the wrestler. It wasn't Ben Danner the person. It just, we were the same person at that point, and it really helped. It helped me with the fans because they can tell. You can tell when somebody's not fully into their gimmick, fully bought in, or any like trying to sell you something that they're not.
Yeah.
And I, once I figured that out, it was fine. Now, as far as the psychology part of it, I still was on the, still was trying to do cool moves. I still was trying to do this. It took me a long time to figure out you don't need to do half these things that you're doing, and you're trying to hurt yourself to do these things, and the people just love the fact you interact with them and make your moves count.
Yeah.
You don't have to do 45 moves. Right. I can do 4 now and make it count.
We'll come to that here in a minute.
Okay.
Before we get to that, I want to talk about so you're just finding your way. You're just letting yourself out. Mm-hmm. Once you start to feel it, do you learn to control it, or is it always just kind of this wave that you ride? Like, do you learn when and how to step on the gas?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you come to that? Like, were there moments where you were like, okay, I feel this now. If I just do this, or if I just ease on the gas a little bit, how did you come to that feeling?
It was just playing off people's reactions in the crowd, and it wasn't. It was. Hey, how far can I push this?
There you go.
Yeah. How far can I take this joke without offending anybody? How far can I make somebody buy in that I had one lady looking for my contact under the ring during one of my matches. My contact was in my eye, right? Like, and that's how I sold everything, was like, okay, I've had a conversation with this lady. Let's see how far I can push her and if she's bought in. And I mean, she bought into the point where she was literally, security had to tell her to sit down.
Yeah.
It was, and that's how I learned. Okay, if I have that much, that person right here, there's other people here too.
Yeah. That
are in, and it was never anything that I walked out there with a plan to do. Mm-hmm. Never. It was just always something that came to me. If somebody reacted to something I did immediately, I would focus on them.
Right.
And yeah, that was my biggest asset.
Yeah.
In all of wrestling. And but
I've seen very few people on the indie level. Lots of good wrestlers. I mean, lots of good guys. I'm not saying this to take away from anybody. I've seen very few wrestlers who connect with the fans the way you do and on the level that you do.
Right. And to this day, I can't explain. Like, I can't explain it. Yeah. I think it was just one of those things where they can tell that you're genuinely that's you.
Yeah.
And I think that paid off. And not to I don't know. There's a lot of words thrown around, like the main one, the it factor.
Yeah.
I've always had it, and I don't want to come off as brash or anything, but I've had the it factor, and I don't know where it came from. I don't know where it generated from, but I can feel it every time I walk through the curtain.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, well, what are we gonna do today? You know what I mean? Let's see. And it took me a long time to hone that. You know what I mean? And feel that, to feel comfortable enough out in the ring to let that part of me go, knowing that the other stuff comes second.
Right.
That took the longest to learn. Was this part's more important than this part. And that really took me a long time.
Well, I think that's real. I think that's difficult. I think that comes through in a lot of guys, and part of the reason why a lot of guys never get that, because that part's a little more intangible, you know.
Yeah.
I can go and work, and I can go into the school, and I can do a slam, and I can go, hey, how did that slam look? Well, it was a little, you know, or I can feel, you know, wow, man, that guy felt heavy. It felt awkward.
Right.
Maybe if I grab him here, maybe if I do this, you know.
Right.
We can practice this move and that move and go, hey, how does that look? It looked a little sloppy, and then you tighten it up, you know, tighten your knees up, tighten your rotation up. You tighten that up. Like, you can work on that stuff.
Yeah.
The part that's just connecting with the crowd, learning, feeling, like, that stuff is so, like, one, you only get to work on that in front of a crowd.
Right.
And two, you know, like, even when you're in front of a crowd, it's not something where you can go, is this working for you guys? What should I do? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you got to be able to read it.
Yeah, you got to learn to read the crowd. You got to try stuff, see how they react. You know, it's scary. It's trial and error.
Well, see, that was one of my, personally, being a salesperson for a long, long time, being, you know, I've always never been afraid to reach out and test.
Right.
I have a very good read on people. Like, I can tell, like, I can walk up to somebody, have like 2 seconds of interaction. I have a pretty good read on how they carry themselves in this. So that, I think that helped me a lot with wrestling and developing Benz.
Yeah.
Just being able to read people, read a situation. What's going to make this person uncomfortable? What made this person not stand up and cheer for the match before us? Can I see in their eyes? Can I tell what they're down about? And can I change their mind?
Yeah.
And that did definitely help me a lot. But yeah, I hear everybody talk about the it factor, and without sounding cocky, I've that's what carried me.
Yeah.
Not work ethic, not talent. That's what made Benz, was that it factor they talk about, because I can feel it.
Yeah.
And that sounds terrible, but
it is what it is, man.
Yeah.
I don't think it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible to or conceited or anything like that to recognize, like, hey, I have it, and it's why I'm able to do this. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's terrible when you're like, you know, I mean, it like, we got to know what it is. You know, like, for some people, it's just that intangible thing that they have. That doesn't make it any less theirs. You know, it doesn't make it any less worth. You know, I mean, it's you know, if you work real hard and, you know, go to the gym every day.
Cool.
Well, no, I'm saying, like, you know.
Well, I respect
but I'm saying, like if you do that, you know, that's not. If you have that dedication and that's the kind of thing you do, like, recognizing, like somebody like that who goes to the gym every day and recognizes that they have a nice body is not any more, in my mind,
conceited,
justified.
Okay.
In saying I have a nice body than you are in recognizing that you have that it thing. You know what I mean? Like, we all have our strengths.
Right.
You know, and we can recognize those strengths. It's when you put those strengths in other people's faces and, you know, I'm the greatest thing. You know what I mean?
You see that a lot,
like,
right?
You see that a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, but for you to sit here and say I have the it factor and that's how I learned to use it, you know, and that's how I got where I am, that doesn't make you sound conceited. You know, if you're going, I'm so great, man, people just connect with me and they just love me because I'm fantastic, like, you know, then you sound
all
conceited.
of those things. I don't. I try to be as humble as possible about things like that.
I think you're humble to a fault sometimes, brother.
Yeah, well.
Okay, so you start to find it, when do you feel like you got it? Like, when do you reach that point where you're like, you know what, I know how to do this thing. This is my thing.
PWA. That going out there, like you said, when you called me and invited me to PWA, I looked at it as, okay, I don't have to prove anything to myself. I don't have to prove anything to anybody else. Let's go have fun. Mm-hmm. That moment that I decided to have fun, I just walked out and owned it. And it, if I could take the Benz from PWA and put him back in New Midwest or put him back in those days, it would have been
that's always the
I know
problem.
Yeah,
right?
But like
if I knew what I knew now,
and just man, just having like that, having fun and opening my mind to this. We don't have to be perfect. This doesn't have to be spot on. There's know your role. You're a big guy. You don't have to do a flip. You don't have to do this. All those things. Yeah. Just going out there and having fun and interacting and literally having a good time with the crowd. Right. Just, it made everything better. It made me have more fun, and I think that when I was having fun doing it and just having a blast, everybody was having a blast. So I just indulged in it. You know what I mean? I finally had felt moving to PWA, working with you, and honestly, working with you made me comfortable in wrestling. Like the psychological part of it, all of that. I've always looked up to you, and it's one of those things where you asking me to do this is humbling, but you're always where I based where do I stand? Yeah. Because I always held you as the bar here. So if I could impress you, perfect. You know what I mean? That's the way I've always looked at it, and that's why you wouldn't think we saw eye to eye, because you pour your heart and soul into this, and I always felt like I didn't give half of what you've given, and you're still having me as a part of your match and this stuff. So it's humbling. All of it's humbling. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So what's,
not to crap on anybody else, but you're the best, man.
Man, thank you, man. I don't know about that.
I've learned a lot from you, and I appreciate it.
That, man.
No, absolutely. You're the only person in the world that can tell me 3 minutes before we go out, what do you want to do? And you look me dead in the eye and say, don't fucking worry about it. You can beep that if you need to. And then turn around and walk away from me like you're mad at me, and I'll go, oh, shit. And it turns out to be match of the night, and I love it. So, yeah.
Well, man, we had good chemistry. We always had good chemistry, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I knew what you did, and I knew we were going to be fine out there.
Yeah.
You were an accomplished wrestler by that time. By the time we were having by the time you and me had that feud in PWA.
I mean, yeah, that was almost a swan song for me, it seems like, but I had the most fun with those.
Yeah.
I was terrified. But because I didn't want to screw up, especially with you. You don't want to screw up with the booker. You know what I mean? But at the same point, I was comfortable enough in knowing what I did, and knowing that if something gets out of hand, I know how to handle it now.
There you go.
And you are 20 steps ahead of me in your mind, so there's definitely not any way you're going to let me get out of line. It's perfect. It worked out, and every time I loved it.
Yeah.
It
was good stuff.
Yeah,
it was good stuff. And I've
that would be every time I wrestled you would be the second nervous I was ever to wrestle.
Yeah.
Second time. Every time. I was nervous. It was second. You get second place, silver.
What's first?
The table or the hardcore match against Justin and Rob at the warehouse.
Hardcore match against Justin
because
and Rob at the warehouse?
Yeah. The Hot Boys versus the Uninvited.
Yep.
And the entire match, I didn't get tired. I think we went 30 minutes. I didn't get tired because I was terrified, because I knew the end spot was Tom Arson back moonsaulting, holding a chair on top of me. And at the time, I didn't know how Justin felt about me. Right?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
The whole time.
Right.
Not only was he going to moonsault holding a chair, he'd never done it before.
Yeah.
He he tried to practice it on the crash pad, but he kept throwing the chair. I go, oh, that's where my body is.
I remember that.
And not only that, I was supposed to kick out, and then Rob was going to 450 on top of me with the chair. I didn't think about anything in that match. I don't remember what we talked about. All I could think about was, is he going to kill me?
Right.
And it turned out to be awesome.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it hurt just as bad as you'd think it would.
Uh-huh.
But in that moment, when I didn't die, didn't care how bad it hurt.
Man, I cannot think of a better place to wrap up this episode. When it hurt and he didn't die, couldn't be happier.
Still here. You missed.
Oh, God. Thank you for joining us, Benz.
Yeah.
So we're going to be back next week, and we're going to talk about your philosophies as a wrestler.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna dig in a little bit deeper. So I like to take it from.
You want me to tell people what they're doing wrong?
No, I want you to tell people what you're doing right.
I'm not. I'm retired. Good night. Episode 3 over.
Guys, hopefully you'll join us next week. We'll be back. I'm excited. The philosophy episodes are usually my favorite episodes. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the conversation.
You haven't paid attention. I don't have a philosophy.
Guys, we'll see you next week.